We've been using like a wireless mic at the gym, and it's funny because I sound like a strip club DJ. Or it sound like, honestly, it's like, hey everybody, welcome to the 5:15 a.m. class. And it's some of the coaches really don't like it. I don't really like it. Well, actually, I do. That's a lie. I like it.
Tango 1 at the top. We are at Pop-Up Circle. 10-4, Tango 1. You have control. Tango 1 copy. Stand by. Stand by.
Integrity, passion, resilience. That's what this place was built on. That's what our community is founded on. Don't act like the example, just be the example. This is the home of the greatest fitness community in the world. We're trying to create strong, able bodies, resilient to injury with a gas tank to get shit done. If there's one thing from this podcast, it's about taking immediate action, find the problem, fix the problem. This is your opportunity. It's either a hell yes or a fuck no. It's that simple. You're doing that with the Tango 1 podcast. Now is the time to take action. Now's the time to do more and be more.
All right, let's go. Welcome to the Tango 1 podcast. I'm Tony Smith, retired cop and tactical team leader, and the founder of the Garage Gym and Tango 1 Solutions. Joined by my friend, co-host, fireman, amateur stuntman, Casey Wright. Our mission is to challenge you and guide you to create an immediate action plan against your problems and your weaknesses. Simply put, we want you to do more and be more. Today, we have a longtime friend of mine as a guest, owner of Level Crossfit, John Mack. So
hey, how you doing?
Show.
Thank you.
All right, let's do this. Let's start rolling. So, man, you got a pretty cool story from what I know. I don't know it all, which is kind of why I'm kind of excited about this. Like, at one point in your life, you're living in Cayman Islands, and
yeah,
like, what the hell happens?
Well, that was after university. I graduated from university. I was on the 10-year plan, and and I had some friends who were already down there, and they said, you know, you got to come down here. This place is awesome. So I jumped on a plane, went down there, and 7 years later came back to Canada. So it's.
What did you do there?
Well, I started out as a DJ in a nightclub and worked my way to be a DJ / bartender, and then a manager. Managed a few restaurants, then a bunch of restaurants, and that's where I kind of found CrossFit and started doing it there with some friends, an early adopter, and yeah. That's the Cayman Island story. So in a very small form.
That's where the DJ voice comes from.
Yeah, it's there's some funny stuff. I was looking through because when I filled out the form, you know, you're like, what's some funny stuff? And I was like, oh wait, hey, I was the starting quarterback for the Cayman Islands flag football team in a international tournament in Palm Springs, and I was the Heineken Green Synergy DJ champion in 2007. And I'm like, these are hilarious. Like, looking back on these, it cracks me up to look at that stuff. But it was fun. It was a great experience. Never have I been introduced to so many people in so many different walks of life, and so many people that would give you an opportunity. It's a place where you can get an opportunity to do stuff that maybe you wouldn't get in Canada, just because the size, and like you meet people that are influential and they can put you in the right places. So it was cool.
How did the Cayman Islands football team do in the World Championship?
Not very well. I think I was benched by the last game. I think I became a free safety by the last game. It was not nearly what I crack it up to be, but it was like the Cayman Islands, Mexico, Canada, US. Like, the US was phenomenal. These guys are a few former D1 players and just like running all over the field. And we were a bunch of like never that good football players in the first place. But the funny thing is that league turned into a full contact league, and then
it's now known as the NFL.
Yes, yeah, and actually, they had a few NFLers come down and do clinics for the kids, and it got kind of big with the kids. And one year, this is actually a good story too. One year, they had the NFL quarterback challenge down there, and we were working the NFL quarterback challenge as volunteers. And so they mic'd me up and said, okay, we need to run you through this whole thing. Like, this is what they're going to do. And they ran me through all the events and had me like do the throws and talk to me through the earpieces. And it was actually a part of a 4-year contract the Cayman Islands government paid to get the NFL quarterback challenge. But it was the year that Mike Vick was in it, and it was the year that he got busted for the dogs. And so they shut it down. So it ended right there.
Really? Just because of that?
Yeah. It was 1 year and then it was done. But like we got to meet like a lot of the players.
I always watched that thing.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah,
like I remember growing up watching it with like Jim Kelly and stuff.
Yeah, it was really cool. I think I was who was the quarterback for the Vikings then? When I was supposed to run through it, I was Brad Johnson.
Yeah,
Brad Johnson.
Tall guy.
Yeah, he was a tall guy. Dante Culpepper was there. Mike Vick was there. Ocho Cinco was there. because they had receivers too, right? And
Remember Culpepper played for the Lions for like a minute?
I'm not sure, but I remember him, like, out of all the guys, there was a few things. Like Mike Vick was little, but he just flicked his wrist and the ball just took off from his hand.
Arm ever.
It was crazy. But then Culpepper actually had the strongest arm. Like he was just like 6'6" and would just toss it across the field, right? Like gun it. Anyways, that was a fun thing. Couple came back to the nightclub we happened to manage afterwards and had some fun, and it was a really cool event.
I can imagine. So you lived there for 7 years?
Yeah, for 7 years.
Like where? Like in just rented a house? Or
Yeah,
whatever?
yeah, rented a house. It was I for a time I thought that was going to be where I settled down and stayed, but it was kind of a never land for me, and it was just like, oh, okay, like I can do this for the rest of my life, like, you know, be in this nightclub restaurant scene, or I can, you know, maybe, you know, come back to Canada and start a family and do that kind of stuff. So it was great, but I think I got out at the right time too.
So you posted a picture. So speaking of the nightclub life, because we had Dave Haas on here too, and Dave's one of my good friends, and he just basically had to like it's just, it eats you, right? I was with Stojic, actually. We stopped in at Stojic's on Saturday, and just, you know, seeing him still doing it, I'm like, bro, man, like getting up, and he's about to have a baby, and it's just, so I remember one of your posts, and you know, I'd never seen you like this, because I've only known you since you've been fit, John Mack, who owned CrossFit that worked at Panache, right? That's how we met. Like I was go to the bar, Panache was my hangout, and that's where you bartended all the time. Yeah. But you had like a beer belly on you, and like, so the fitness was not part of your life when you moved down to the Cayman Islands, or how did this come about?
So it had, like, fitness has always been a part of my life through sports, right? So fitness was a way to get better at whatever sport I was playing. I was big into sports, and it's funny you mentioned the hammer strength stuff before. I remember when our football gym got outfitted with hammer strength stuff, and it was just like, oh yeah, this is amazing. Like it went from a little closet to this like purposely built gym outside, and we just thought we were going to be awesome. We weren't, but it was always a way to get better at what I was doing. So I was fit, and then once I went down to the Cayman Islands, like it was just such a free for all. Like basically my job as a manager of the nightclub was to have drinks with people, right? So like I didn't really have a lot of responsibility other than just like shake hands and have some drinks and buy drinks for people. And so it was drink, 4 a.m., go to the kebab shop or the shawarma shop, eat a shawarma, wake up, do it again. And just the one day it was funny, I came back to Windsor for a wedding, and a guy I used to know, he was in the wedding, and he just pointed at me. He's like, John Mack, you got fat. And I was like, I did? And I'm like looking around, I'm like, whoa, I guess my pants are kind of tight. And and I was like, wow. So went back to the Cayman Islands and figured I had to do something, because I had let myself slide. I was not stepping on the scale at that point. I didn't know. I was just like, I don't want to know what that number is. And
so then you find your way into your first CrossFit box. That's like, what years are we talking? Like CrossFit was
2010 is when I started CrossFit. So 2009, 2010.
When did CrossFit really start to take steam? Like
probably 2007. Well, not even take steam. Like it was pretty, like 2007 would have been very early on in the whole thing, right?
Like the early days of the UFC. That's how I remember CrossFit. Like I remember CrossFit.
And that's how I got into it. So when I got back, I started training with some guys in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And so we do BJJ, and one of the guys who knew that we were doing that, he said, hey, I know you do BJJ. There's this workout called Fight Gone Bad that's supposed to simulate like an MMA fight. And it was created for BJ Penn, who is a UFC fighter and a BJJ guy. And so he put me through it, a couple of us through it. And afterwards I was like, wow, I did awesome. I must have killed that. He's like, no, that wasn't very good. I'm like, come on, like I must have done well. He's like, no, that was maybe an average score, but not really. And so then I was kind of like, oh, it's one of those things where you tell me I'm not very good at it and I want to get better at it. So it hooked me that way. And I wasn't everyday CrossFit after that. It was kind of like sporadic, but that's when I first got into it through BJJ and MMA, because I was doing that semi-actively.
And this was going on still when you're in the Cayman Islands?
Yep. Yeah. I actually had my one and only, we'll call it professional MMA fight in the Cayman Islands. So that was, they had like a little promotion they did, and they brought MMA fighters from Arizona Combat Sports and a couple other places to do fights, and I had a fight, and that was it.
Did you have a fight name?
I did. And
Oh, what? That's what we're waiting for. And today's word, Casey.
good one. It was Blackjack Mack.
Blackjack. That is all I'm going to call you now.
And this is. I'm going to say it just because it's good for the podcast and it's good for everything. But there's a YouTube video that once in a while people dig up. Of Blackjack Mack.
That's going on.
Nico, make a note, man. I want this video up. He's going to put it right on the YouTube screen.
The first time it came up was John Ray. Actually, John Ray, during one of our open parties like 5 years ago, dug it up, put it on the big screen, and like put it in front of everybody. And yeah, it's funny. Like it was part of that, and it was fun, and it was cool. But
That's awesome. Here's a cool story. I actually got to roll with BJ Penn.
really,
Yeah. So when I was training Randa,
yeah,
he was a guest like at the fight. Obviously,
Yeah.
they got the alumni guys around.
Yeah.
So we go. It was cool because each fighter, not each fighter, but each corner. So like, everybody's assigned red corner, blue corner.
Right.
So they try to keep the fighters away from each other. So
Yeah.
like a red corner would be everybody who's fighting out of the red corner, and we just kind of go in one room and you get to train. So like,
Yeah.
you and your team could be there, me and my
Sure.
team, it just wouldn't be. And so just random people. So we walk in and it's nobody in there except for BJ Penn and one guy. And I'm not a huge UFC fan,
Yeah.
but like, I like
You know who
BJ
he
Penn,
is.
right?
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
yeah, like that's like if I was gonna see somebody, it'd be like BJ Penn, St.
Yeah.
Pierre, like all those like known guys, and like whoa, and now Randa's fight team are obviously fight people. They're like,
yeah,
oh my god, it's BJ Penn, right?
the greatest of all time. Yeah,
Yeah, and then so Randa's rolling around, and then he comes and starts like helping a little bit of things,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
he's sitting there talking to us, and he's like using me because I'm not the fighter. I like know very little about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, and he's like bending me. It was like the coolest thing, man. It was like
That's
so
awesome.
very cool. And then John Ray, you want to talk about this guy? You should, and his fame. I remember we're sitting in Kildare House one time,
Yeah.
in the top floor, and they had all these like it was called like some kind of whiskey name, and it's all these advertisements, and I look, and it's all pictures of John Ray.
What?
Yeah. Advertising this whiskey, and it's like they're all pictures at Kildare House, like whiskey like advertisements that they've like.
Recent or like?
No, they were from so long ago. Like he was a rugby player, and they went
Really?
to Jackson Park, and they like fake made them like field muddy, and they had them do these things. And
Yeah,
John
yeah.
was a jack, like
Yeah.
he looks like a rugby guy, right?
Yeah.
And it's all these pictures of John Ray. I'm like, that's John Ray. It's all John Ray, and I'm like calling him from the bar, like kind of like.
And he's never said anything about it.
Oh yeah, he didn't. He like didn't talk about it much at all. Like I had no clue, and that was when I was coaching with him. I was with him every single day. I'm like,
Oh,
how do I
man.
not know this? I'm at Kildare House.
man-
I'm looking at 100 pictures
A
of you.
man of many secrets, that John. I love it.
All right, so you're training down there, and was there like when you were coming home, was there any like, hey, let's go home and open a CrossFit box? Like,
Yeah.
because you were down there with the people that own the gym with you, like,
For
Correct,
a
for
brief
a while?
period. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we had talked about it because they left after a couple of years. So on and off, we talked about it when actually what happened was I got into CrossFit. I went back to visit them. They were living just outside of London in Ilderton. And I was up because I was new in CrossFit. All you do is talk about CrossFit, right? So it was like, CrossFit's awesome. CrossFit's the best.
you're like a fireman.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Maybe. So I was talking to them and they're like, yeah, we do P90X in our basement. I'm like, oh, P90X, you got to try this CrossFit stuff. And they're like, well, what is it? And so I tried to explain it, and they ended up going and trying it, liking it, and kind of latching onto it. And they started a CrossFit gym in their garage to start. So like technically, like all Level CrossFit started in a garage in Ilderton in maybe 2012, 2011. And then we had been talking back and forth about opening a gym. And at first we were thinking about the London area. And then their family situation changed, and they were moving back to Windsor, where they were both from, or the Windsor area. So I was in Toronto at that time. After I left the Cayman Islands, I went to Toronto. I was just like, where am I going to go? And I thought Toronto would be cool. So went to Toronto, and then they said, hey, we're going to go back to Windsor. We're thinking about opening a CrossFit gym. Do you want to come? Thought about it, and just where I was at the time, I was like, yeah, let's do this. Let's go back there and see if we can make this work. So that was 2013.
2013. So
Yeah.
you've been doing this a long time. Because I'm trying to think, because not on your resume that you handed me and not in your awards was that you were the trainer of the Cops. What was that? The Battle of the Badges 2014
That
champs.
was the best. That was the best. That was so great. Where was it at the, what is it? The Bull and Barrel, right?
Yeah.
You
so-
in this?
Yeah, so John we knew he owned the CrossFit gym, and I think at that point Drummond was going to the gym, right?
I think he was coaching us.
And so he's at the bar, and we enter this competition. It's like bench press, curls, and like
squats,
half squats.
Yeah,
like,
quarter squats.
You had the courage to enter this?
So we were, and it's like cops versus jail versus EMS versus like they're all there. So we're like, can you train us? So then that's when we first started going around, and that had to be 2014, maybe.
Yeah. And it was maybe 2013, maybe 2014. I still remember that. The thing I remember from that is I forget his name, but he did the bicep curls, and I remember it was Mack's curls, and he just went crazy and like did some ridiculous number of preacher curls to like seal the deal, win the event. And I was just like, this is insane. This is so good. And the quarter squats, we talked about afterwards, the lack of standards and the whole thing.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
just like, but it was fun. It was awesome.
It was the weirdest competition, but it was so fun.
The lack of judging in a barrel squat
Yes,
competition.
yeah. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised.
Which is
He had
funny.
his shirt off in the warm-up.
Of course, yeah.
He didn't even wear one. He just walked in shirtless.
Before the pandemic hit and the 5K that you guys ended up doing for us for the front lines, we were actually planning a battle of the badges.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we wanted to do a big battle of the badges at the waterfront and like somehow get everybody. That was the plan, and then obviously we had to shut that down. But then everything came about anyways. So you said you want Zach about your the current state of fitness, man. What do you think? Let's hear. Give me your rant.
Well, it's not. I guess it's not. I'm going to use fitness as like a term for like wrapping all that stuff together, like health and sleep and stress management and stuff. And I know that's kind of the way that we're headed. I think is to provide more than just a place to work out, but to provide stuff like guidance for people on multiple aspects of their life. And I think that's eventually where we're going, or at least where I would like to go. I'd like to take the brand of fitness we do, and I know that CrossFit is fairly specific to this is what we do and this is how we do it. But I think being able to get people more into the style of fitness that we do, even the garage gym, CrossFit, some of the smaller boutique gyms, I guess studio gyms we'll call them. And
I hate that word boutique.
Yeah, I know it doesn't sound.
I hate it. I'm like so not looking.
Yeah, I know.
This is an old home hardware building.
Yeah, exactly.
Boutique about
There's
this.
brick walls,
Until COVID, we didn't even mop.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. So boutique doesn't fit.
Take that one out.
I'm just kidding.
Whatever it is that we kind of classify ourselves at, but I think that's the way forward. And I don't want to ruffle too many feathers, but some of the stuff is like, who do you see more often? Your family doctor or your coach at your gym, right? And we can provide. We're not trained medical professionals, and we're not going to try to give you that kind of advice. But the stuff that we do here can be pretty life changing and can help people in a way that can really prolong their life and keep them away from doctors. And I'm not saying doctors are bad. I'm not saying that, but put them on a path to not have to see the doctor.
You're not censored on this channel. You can say anything you want. Nobody's coming after you.
And it's not even that. It's just like we can provide a really good buffer against that kind of stuff. Like
sure, man.
I put that post out that was talking about metabolic diseases and how Windsor, Essex has a higher than provincial average for almost all of it, right? Like hypertension, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity, all that stuff, and that's all stuff that we can help people, provide a buffer and to reverse and to keep them healthy. And I think that's the direction that we need to go, right? Like six packs and big muscles are awesome, and go get them if you want them. But at the end of the day, extending your quality of life for an extra 20 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever it is. Like I want to live to 100, but I want to be kicking ass well into my 90s, not living to 100 and not.
You want to be wiping your own ass and getting yourself out of bed. Like that's kind of like we think here it's a long term. We're looking for long term solutions, and I think your client base is a lot like ours. Yeah, like what's our ideal clients? Probably like 35 to 45-year-old parent. Yeah, and some of my favorite stories are things like it's not like how many six packs are we actually making? Like one. It's a certain type of body type. Sure. Like it's not that easy to just have. Yeah. Some are like blessed with a little bit extra. Yeah. But it's like guys like Mark Wolcombe like retires from being a police officer. It comes into the gym, loses, I don't know, like 40 pounds probably, and like gets off all of his blood pressure meds. Like that guy and it's not all us, it's his consistency, but I feel like consistency of the member has to do with the quality of the environment you're providing.
For sure.
Right. And
I
that's
agree.
why it's so important to do something that you like to do, whether it's CrossFit or a boot camp or Zumba for all that
Yeah.
matters. As long
And
as
the
keep
idea-
going and keep doing it and do it. If you like it, keep going.
Yeah.
And the idea of like redefining kind of, I think what people look at as fitness. Like when you hear that, sometimes it's like, oh, working out.
Yeah.
But I think what you're really getting at is like fitness is like all these components jammed into
Yeah.
this big thing where it's like, yeah, you're working out, but also fitness is eating healthy. Fitness is getting proper sleep. Fitness is,
Yeah.
living a healthy and like mental state and all that stuff combined, and preaching that in addition to just lifting weights and working towards
For sure.
bench press.
I think that's, fitness is just like fitness as we define it as like working out, and the 1 hour a day you maybe see someone, that's a fraction of the pie, right? Like there's a lot of other factors that go into making a fit and healthy and well-rounded person. And like you can go in there, as you well know, you can go in there for 1 hour a day and bust your butt and work really hard. But if the other 23 hours of the day, you're like, cramming Twinkies down your throat and smoking a pack of cigarettes, like things are probably not going to go that well for you. So it's about getting to people, to buy in about all the other stuff too. Like getting them in the door might be the 6-packs, might be, I'm sure it's with you guys too, 99% of the people that come are like, I want to tone up, I want to lose some weight, I want to this, but like maybe that's the hook that gets them in the door. And then you can really sink your claws in and say, well, that's all well and good, but here's what we want you to kind of buy into is like the whole lifestyle, because I do think that it is more of a lifestyle thing. Like you have to buy into that lifestyle. Like I'm going to eat well because it's going to make me perform better, and I'm going to look better, and I'm going to have sleep so I can do better and all these things as well. So I mean, that's what I mean by the state of fitness. Like I just don't think that some of the big box gyms, maybe that's what they're going towards, but I think that that's what we do a better job of, I think.
Oh yeah, I think there's no way that the small gyms, the ones, if we just call it the Cruise and Bruise Alliance, like
Sure.
all these 20 gyms, I think the one thing we've learned as like getting to know each other better and is that we're kind of all the same in terms of like we really do want the best. Like this whole us fighting to make sure we can to try to become essential service is not just so I can make money. Like I feel like I feel like we're gonna hang on to our businesses.
Yeah.
No matter what. Like
Sure.
I feel like we have the communities that will go online, we'll do whatever we have to do.
Yeah.
But I really do feel like these people, like it's for a lot of people, it's the best hour of their day.
Yeah.
And we're helping the people that are going to keep the community, like the frontliners that are
Yeah.
going to keep this world going through this pandemic. So like who needs it more than them? Like
I agree.
And that's the service we provide. I agree with
Do you guys think as business owners that COVID was almost a blessing? Like looking at the positives of it, is that like without it just brought forward the importance of health and healthy living people. And when you see the stats as the people who are being able to, either not catch it or push through it easily, like did it help a little bit in the idea of things?
I think that I think you're 100% right. I don't know if it did help as much as like we want to push that, because we want to say that the more resilient you become, the less susceptible to any disease you are, whether it's COVID, whether it's metabolic disease, whether it's, getting the flu or whatever it is. Like the healthier you are, the more resilient you are against that kind of stuff. And I think,
the faster your scabs heal. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Like how
I think that needs to be the bigger narrative, right? I think it needs to be out there, not just like, because I know that mental health gets put there as a lot for gyms as well, like, and they're super important to mental health, but I think they're also important to what you were saying as well about like, bulletproofing people against all that stuff. Like that's all part and parcel of the whole thing. And I think that needs to be a bigger narrative, not just like, I feel like people on the outside looking in, we're all in the same industry. So we all consume the same kind of stuff. It seems like more or less. But people on the outside looking in don't always see those benefits that we're trying to get across, right? They just be like, oh, these people want to lift weights and they're all meatheads and that's what they like to do. And I feel like, the government needs to step up and put that out there and say, listen, this is what's going to keep people healthy. Like this is what's going to save us money in the long term. Like, in researching our COVID safety plan, you go to Public Health Ontario, there's a paper on there called the burden of comorbidities, right? Or something along those lines. And it talks about how much money stuff like obesity, poor nutrition, lack of exercise costs the government, and the billions and billions, like $7 billion, I can't even comprehend those numbers, but you know, that's them saying that this is what costs us money, and that's what we do. That's what we do, is we help to stop that kind of stuff. We're preventative medicine, like without, you know, we're preventive. I think we're preventative
I
medicine.
just gave that example. The guy who comes off his meds, like
Yeah.
who knows what those meds cost?
Yeah.
Right. Through the government, and you know that's preventative. That's also a hospital bed that's going to be freed up. It's like,
And
you know, it is a long rolling.
It's a free, sustainable solution.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
obviously paying for memberships and stuff, but like just moving and being healthy on that side of things, you're not paying for all these other additional things that can, obviously there's a lot more that can happen even if you're a healthy person, but
Sure, but
this definitely can, a lot of the kind of main issues that you see a lot of people can prevent.
yeah, and that's like one of the best ways I saw it is like, you know, doctors are super valuable for acute conditions. Like you know, something happens acutely to you. Obviously, as a firefighter, you know, you show up on the scene and there's someone who needs immediate attention, right? That's an acute thing. But the chronic stuff that's like over the course of a lifetime or whatever that is, that's the stuff that we seem to be better at than, like, you go to your doctor and he's like, how you eating? Good. You know, what are you doing? You exercising? Sure. You know, like, that doesn't go much deeper than that unless you have a really good family doctor that's going to get in there and talk about, you know, what are you eating and what are you doing and how much are you doing? And that's the stuff that I think that we can help with, and that's hopefully what our future is, you know.
Well, how much do you find out that you think you're eating healthy? Or like when I went to university and I was playing sports, I thought I was eating healthy and I was super active. But now that I'm here and if I were to sit down with Danny and talk about what I ate in university, how I ate fucking white buns and salami sandwiches every day, like, not even close. Like, I thought I was healthy, but there's so much, like, just on the surface stuff that it's such a wake-up call. And those little things, like, I feel a million times better than I used to.
Sure.
Just from eliminating things like that.
Yeah, we had that breakthrough the other day, and we won't mention her name because I don't know how personal that was, but just saying that, you know, it was somebody who was getting on the scale all the time, like felt obsessed with having to measure food, and it really just put her on to like a portions, like just hand size, you know, the palm, of the fist and all that stuff. And just the gains, which is really the losses in weights and inches, has just been unreal since. Yeah. And then she says, like, you know, I look at food differently. Yeah. Like, once people start to look at it differently, but so the list goes on and on and on. Things, but something though, when you say salami sandwich with that mustache, it's just I want to just zoom in and just like do like one of those TikTok salami sandwich.
maybe you get a sponsorship. You never know.
From what, Schneider's or something.
Maestro salami.
Genua.
Yeah, there you go.
Calabrese, whatever you need.
Casey, the salami spot.
I love it.
Oh, that would be. I would love that. I'm gonna read in an ad. Go ahead, grab yourself. On that note, let's get away from salami. Let's start talking about finances. So, Stephen Kidd, financial advisor. Does your financial advisor take the time to really listen to you? Is your financial strategy personalized for you and your family? And will your financial advisor be there as your life and financial situations change? When you work with Stephen Kidd, your local Edward Jones financial advisor, he focuses on what's important to you. You'll work together and use an established process to create a personalized financial strategy backed by the advice, tools, and resources to help you reach your goals. And you'll partner to help your strategy stay on track. Contact Stephen Kidd today at 519-734-8599. That's 519-734-8599. Edward Jones, member, Canadian Investor Protection Fund. A heavy leg day with Steve Kidd this morning. I am sore from it. I can feel it just sitting here. All right, so one of the cool things I think you're doing in your box, man, and we've worked a lot with the Special Olympics over the last few years. Yeah. And I have a couple of Special Olympic athletes that are in here. Is like the adaptive program you're doing. I don't want to butcher it. Adaptive athlete.
Just adaptive athlete. Yeah, it's something we've done in partnership with the Chasing Hazel Foundation, which is a foundation to support awareness and for the Down syndrome community. And it was, the way it came to be is one of the founders, Matt Segan, was a member at our gym, and just through conversations, like, we started talking about you know, how the Down syndrome community is underserved once they get past a certain age. There's lots of activities and things to do for kids that are, like, you know, under, let's call it under 14, but once they kind of hit that 14 to 16, then a lot of that stuff kind of goes away. And so through talks with Matt's wife, Stephanie, we started hatching the idea of doing a program mainly for kids with Down syndrome to start, because that's the access we had, and that was kind of the end. And we started that about 2 years ago at our old location on Howard, and through that, it's grown to become what was originally a program, a class just for kids with Down syndrome, to like a full inclusionary class, where now kids with Down syndrome or autism or cerebral palsy or whatever they might have attend a CrossFit class with all able-bodied and athletes as well. So it's been really cool to work with that and to kind of see it grow and to for it always just to be part of what we do now at the gym, right? It's almost like a pillar of our gym, like inclusionary. We're going to have this. We're going to keep working on it. And if you're going to be a member at the gym, you have to be cool with sometimes putting your workout second to be, part of that class and help out. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing though. And those, every time you post a story or whatever from those, it just makes me smile. And knowing that, Matt Segan, I've known him since I was probably 4 years old, and to know that you guys are helping him, that's awesome. Is Chasing Hazel, that's their local thing that they did together?
Yeah, so Hazel,
that's amazing.
Hazel's their daughter, and she has Down syndrome, and so
she's adorable. She's always smiling on your
awesome. And
Instagram.
she does our kids program too, and it's pretty amazing to see her and her sister work out together in our kids program. But Steph, her mom, became an advocate, probably right after she was born for people with Down syndrome, and so through that, it's kind of morphed into what it is, and it's been a huge learning curve, and it's been, we're always still learning and growing. I mean, the first class we ever had, I was scared shitless. Like, I had no idea. I had never really worked with kids with disabilities, and, okay, you're going to coach a class, and this is what we're going to do. And, I didn't know. And I still, I'm still obviously learning. I don't know, a ton about it, but I'm always learning. Right. But it's been really eye-opening and really, really, I guess, transformative, I guess, a little bit, because now it's something that you really want to continue on doing. So
yeah, well, you know what, you get like these moments when you're doing things like that, or like the charity work that we've done together, and one of those moments was we had that Special Olympics. We did the little fundraiser to make money for the athletes, but then we also hosted the provincial qualifier.
Yeah,
and so this place was jam packed with people. It was amazing. Yeah. And they're hitting lifts, and like everybody's obviously cheering, and I'm on the microphone, and then I look and I see Matt Segan, and I didn't know the daughter's name at the time, Hazel.
Yeah.
And I'm watching her look, and I get the thumbs up from Matt, and I'm watching her look at somebody who's doing, that she could relate to, doing something amazing, and people going crazy. And you could just that's giving people hope. And that's, I think it's one of the coolest things you guys do. And I'm proud you guys are doing it. I'm proud to say that I know you guys and you're doing that.
It's, and also like, even on the performance side, we have Julia Lane, who's one of our athletes there. She's been rewriting the record books in swimming for in the Down syndrome category, and she just keeps getting faster and faster, and her parents keep attributing it to what she does in the gym and the training she does there. And it's, I got to go to the Westby Awards last year to sit at the table with her, because it was really cool to see her win an award at the Westbys and to be a part of that too. And it's just like, it doesn't always have to be on that scale, but you touch these kids, and it is like you were saying, the best hour of their day for a lot of these kids. It's definitely one of the best hours of the day, and to see them come in and just they exude such happiness and such sheer joy, which you don't always see. You got people come in, they're a little bit like, they're like, oh, I got to be at the gym again. And these guys come in and they're just like, woo, let's do this,
Brightens your entire day.
Oh man, it's crazy. And I've gone through those moments that Tony was talking about, where you're just like goosebumps and like, yeah, this is why you want to do stuff like this, right? It's, again, not the 6-pack abs and stuff. It's the moments that you can have with people that just, can be life-changing. You don't even know.
Yeah.
You don't even know, because it happens all the time in front of your face, and then someone brings something up. You're like, oh, wow. That's a big difference.
Yeah, I say it all the time here. I when I opened, and I thought I was going to be training like SWAT guys and football players, man. I thought high end, like fitness type people, like high performers as far as athletes go.
Yeah.
And I don't.
Yeah.
I train a lot of like really just normal people that do very not average things. Like supposed normal people that are anything but normal. There is just above average people that are in here, and like you get these just little things where like, hey, like, you know, that somebody from the master's classes, like this is the first time I've been able to walk down my stairs without holding the railing, and you're like, you're so happy, or you just watch the mother of 3 hit a PR deadlift, and like she like had never lifted a barbell in her life, and she's like so jacked and jumping around and crying about it. It's so funny.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that sometimes it happens so fast, and you see it and you don't really realize, and you have to sit back and kind of reflect on that once in a while, because you know you get caught up in the day to day and what's going on, and sometimes you have to sit back and just go, wow, yeah, there's some really cool things that have happened, and some really cool transformations and life-changing stuff, and that's what, you know, you can get back to, like, okay, let's get back to doing what we're doing, because we're doing some real good here. So
yeah, and I think there's a misnomer with CrossFit that people think that everybody, like, if I walked in your gym, it's gonna look like you know, frowning and like all these people are like, you know, like jacked and like doing all these like, for the most part, like that's like I don't know what the percent of it, a very small part of the people that you actually train to do CrossFit.
Yeah, 100%. It's just
that jacked community is usually like the friendliest part of it too. Like, for the most part, like that's what I think is cool about it is that's the image sometimes people get is they're like, that's the group I don't want to walk into.
Right.
And it's like, that's the group who, again, all groups are like that, but that's the group that more than not is going to actually be like, okay, let's work through this.
Yeah,
let's
welcome you in
with it and welcome you into it, and just like good for you stepping in the door right now.
For sure. And you know, it's pretty cliche, but you know, they say sometimes the heaviest thing in the gym is the front door, right? And there's a lot of, that's one thing that we definitely have to get through, is there's a lot of intimidation factor with CrossFit, and people do think that. They're like, I'm not fit enough to do CrossFit, or you know, and it's like, there's no baseline fitness you need to get into CrossFit, right? It's sure, you only see the high performers because that's what's on TV, and that's what the advertisements are, and that's what the media is. And I think that
they're not putting you know, John Mack, the DJ, who just did Fight Gone Bad in 40 minutes.
They're not putting, you know, 40, 50 pounds different John Mack on there, but I mean,
scaled.
Yes, 100% scaled. But they need, like, that's what we're always trying to.
That is the fight.
Fight against a little bit.
It's the fight here too, with us, with the Jim Jones label, and you know the couple of cops. Like the things that we actually advertise work against us in a lot of ways. Yeah, because people are just like, I don't think I could come here, and then once they come in, they're like, oh, I know her, I know him, I know her. That's the guy that, like, you know.
And that's like you said, that's the ideal member. That's the bread and butter. We have the high performers, you know, who want to, you know, get better at the sport of CrossFit, and then we have the 95% or 90% others that are regular everyday members that have 1 hour a day to work on their fitness, and they're going to go home and, you know, deal with their kids and get, you know, they've got their work to worry about, and all that kind of stuff is the majority of what we do, right? And I'm sure what you do as well. And it's not the guys that have 3-4 hours to spend in the gym, because it's, you know, they're few and far between, right? So that's our ideal member. That's what we want to make a difference with. That's the people we want. You know, we want everybody, but that's
where everybody falls into it a bit, because the impact's different for everybody, right? It's like someone who does want to get a lot stronger can come in and get a lot stronger. But the person who wants to come in and have their hour, and this is my time to be away from work, be away from whatever it is, and just have social hour and hopefully listen to the instructions of the class. But that's their hour. Like, they're there to work and they're sweating, and they don't have to lift 1 million pounds. It's just as important to them as the person next to them who's trying to PR in their squad.
And I'm sure it's the same with you guys. Like, we have to dial people back a lot and just be like, hey, you know, like, what's the risk reward of like going for that 500 pound deadlift or whatever it is, right? Like, you know, it'd be really cool to have a 500 pound deadlift, but you know, the risk reward as you start to
a lot of times, right? It's not about what you can do, it's about what you should do, right? Like, is
your grade 3 class really gonna care?
Yes. Like, is your wife gonna care when you're like sitting on the couch for the next 2 weeks? And you know, it's and that's what I love about CrossFit is the scalability, right? You can scale it to anybody's abilities, injuries, and that's one of the reasons it was a really good fit with the adaptive program, is that you can take the movement and you can scale it for anybody, right? And that's what I think is one of my favorite things about CrossFit is the scalability of it. I mean, you can you guys obviously scale fitness for everybody too. It's not exclusive to CrossFit, but it's something that that we practice and we want to be good at too, right? We want to be able to tell you, don't tell me what you can't do. Tell me what you can do, and then we'll build a program around that. And that was always what we try to say is, right, don't tell me your limitations. Tell me what you can do, and we'll figure it out from there.
Yeah, and anybody listening too, that's the one thing that you think because you got, you separated your shoulder playing, high school football or, or flipping over a body at the hospital as from a nurse. That's the one we hear a lot. But that doesn't mean you can't, one, that you can't fix that injury.
Yeah.
And two, that, you can't work out. Like, yeah, you can. No, you can come here. Danny's one. She had with her neck, she hadn't done things, but she worked out every day. But she did like 2 movements. But it was her movements. And people here with bad knee that, knee surgery, they're here doing their upper body every day and working on their other leg.
Yeah. And it's as simple as like asking the coach when you come in. Like all the time people will come up and it'll be a leg day. And it's like, okay, well, you hurt your knee last week or something like that. It's like, okay, well, give me a minute once I explain. I'll give you a full upper body workout. Yeah. Or let's still work lower body today, but let me give you a quick mobility routine, which you're going to benefit a lot more than staying home for a week and just sitting on the couch, icing your knee.
Yeah.
Come in.
Yeah.
And then we could work through it.
Yeah.
People with those old injuries are the people who need to be here the most.
Yeah.
Like, you're the people that need movement. Like, you need movement in your life. And
that's one of the cool things when someone says, like, I've had this knee injury for 15 years and it feels amazing right now. Like this is the first time in however long I don't have pain in my lower back. Because it's not avoiding the gym. It's you just had to strengthen it a little bit or work through these.
Find a coach.
Yeah, there's a really good story. I took a seminar or a certification with Chris Hinshaw, who's a former Ironman triathlete, and the Ironman, like obviously they just pile volume on volume on volume, right? Hey, I'm going to run, 30 kilometers today, and I'm going to swim for 10 kilometers. I'm going to bike for 100 kilometers, and he had lost, after his Ironman career was over, he'd lost all that functionality, and he's like, I have to, use the railing to get downstairs, and I limp and all that. And he came to CrossFit in a kind of through a fortuitous event, but he ended up gaining back that functionality. He thought he was just like destined to live like that for the rest of his life. And by strengthening himself and doing the right exercises for what he needed, like now he's, back to crushing 5-minute miles and stuff, and he's like 50 plus years old. So it's stuff like that. That's really cool stuff.
But you can take an example from NFL athletes. Like if someone tears their ACL, right? They get surgery, and what do? They don't sit there and rest for 6 months.
No.
They're in the gym 3 times a day. They're
getting back to work,
their massage, they're getting physio done, they're working on that specific knee injury or whatever it is. And then they're back next season. And that's what people are always mind blown, the fact that they're playing 6 months later or whatever it is. But it's like because they put in that work.
Yeah.
So if you have a normal everyday injury, why would you not take those steps and go take care of it?
Yeah, and I think that's where we need to find, like, there needs to be a really nice loop between, like, a physio, chiro, doctor that kind of involves, gyms as well, and says, here's the patient, here's what they can do, here's what they can't do, let's get them back moving again.
I mean, that's what you're doing at your facility, right? That's what we're doing it here.
Yeah.
Like, we are at least what can I do with this person? What else should I do? Like, because you also want them in here. Actually, a lot of people want to and I think as coaches, sometimes we make the mistake of just kind of avoiding the injury.
Yeah.
And, giving them the upper body instead of being like, okay, what you said, let's now, here's a couple movements that are going to make you better. And I know you, and now we've gone so far where Elise will tell us these are the movements so that we can be instead of just giving you something different to do.
Yeah.
Do your physio, man. You're here, get your physio in.
And as a coach,
fix it. And I love learning about it.
Yeah.
Like when I find someone has an injury, one, I try to create something to get them through that workout.
Sure.
But then now I'm on Instagram and I'm going through things and I'll find something that, oh, this is an MCL injury and that's might be what this person has, and I look at prehab and rehab exercises.
Yeah.
And then the next day they come in, hey, let's try some of these.
Yeah.
And I was looking at, this hurts, Kay.
Yeah.
Let's do this next one. And that one does work.
Yeah.
And then so those are things where as a coach, it's kind of exciting in a way when you actually now have a little problem area where it's okay, let's see if I can somewhat fix it. And then when you see results, one, you're learning a lot more. So the next person who comes in with a similar injury, you've got that bag of tricks you can try.
Yeah, it's in your tool belt, 100%.
And I just think it brings so much more value to your clients as well.
Yeah,
and then it just makes the job, like, again, another problem solving kind of like task. It's fun.
100%.
Well, the members, I always laugh at the members. It's like, oh, I broke my ankle, right? Doing something stupid. And you're like, that's the best injury you could have had. And they're like, what? Well, I'm like, cause I broke my ankle.
There you go.
Like cause like you learn, like if somebody gets like
350 pounds.
Well, if somebody gets like the same injury your coach has, because you learn so much about it. So now, like, working with these physio people, we can like learn again. So you and I, we got some tough decisions to make, man. Probably by the time this thing airs, we'll be on the border of code black. So we're in code red right now as of today. Like, this will be airing in a couple weeks, but this is the day that we moved to red.
Yeah.
Or as of Monday.
Yeah.
So we have to do some things. We were talking before we went off, and I'm kind of at a dilemma with this because I wholeheartedly don't believe we should be closed.
Right. Yeah.
But I also don't really believe in breaking the law.
Right.
So we have to like make a decision, and there's a lot of pressure on us. So what are you thinking from a moral standpoint?
Well, I'm
not saying are you going to stay open, stay closed. I just like, what are you dealing with that moral dilemma?
Oh, 100%. Like, I'm in the same boat as you. Is that, like, as leaders of your community, you have a responsibility to A, do what's in the best interest of your community, but also in B, to be a good role model, right? Like, you're the one that kind of puts it out there. If you're eating Big Macs and like ordering pizza to the gym and doing all that stuff on a regular basis, and people seeing that, like, oh, well, Tony does this, then it's all right for me to do that. And you've got to kind of lead the way. I always kind of run it through the filter of, is this something that, like, I would be all right with telling my kids, like, hey guys, it's all right to do this, right? And if it's not, then it's something that probably I don't want to do. Like, obviously, if I don't want my kids drinking pop, I'm not crushing 2 liters of Coke at the dinner table and say, no, this is bad for you. You can't do that, right? You have to practice what you preach. So I feel like there's a responsibility to the members. Like, we do provide what I consider an essential service, but at the same time too, I'm struggling with the idea of, saying it's all right to take some rules into effect and not some other rules into effect, right? And it's a real tough one. It's something that I know we're both going to mull over. Like, I'm just hoping we don't have to get to that gray zone, whatever it is, the color gray, because that's when that tough decisions can have to be made. But it's through conversations with guys like you and other people in the community, like other leaders, that will help me, formulate that. At the end of the day, it's an individual decision by individual people that run their businesses, but having that input and bouncing ideas and getting that kind of feedback from other people is super important too. And I think that, I just hope I don't have to cross that bridge, but when I do, it's going to be a tough one, because I feel like we do have a responsibility to stay open for the people that really need it. But at the same time too, you don't want to be, I don't know, it's you don't want to set an example like you said, breaking the law. It's not something that you want to be like, hey, we're all right with that, because we're not all right with that. Like, I'm not going to be like to my kids, okay, well, this law is good and this one's not. You don't get to pick and choose usually.
Right. And I feel like people are overlooking some of the consequences of COVID. Like, okay, we're not just like worried like the death rate and all these things. It's just the occupation of the hospitals, and like, so now there's if it got bad here, everything's like full in the hospital, and now somebody who really needs help for something else can't get it. Like, that's where the concerns, like, for me, from a personal level, I'm not scared of catching the COVID. Right. Like, but at the same time, I also don't want my kids to get it, because we don't know the long-term effects that this might have. So there's a lot of answers or questions that got to be asked, and a lot of things that we have to ask ourselves. And, I think the first time around, we all closed. We actually closed ahead of being told to close.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Because we didn't know the things that we know, right? The data wasn't there. But now, do we really still have data? Like, you don't know what stats are true. You don't know what is right. I don't know, like, the stuff that's coming out of the States. I feel like that's a good spot to test, since they have so much COVID run around there, right? It's like, so I don't know, like, because right now when we're all saying, okay, we've had all these check-ins with no infections in our gyms, but also there's been very few cases in the area, so the likelihood of us getting any cases is good. So, like, I just wish we had better information that made me feel better about closing our doors, because we don't, and the government and the health ministers or whoever, they're not really telling us that, right?
Yeah, and it's like we had spoken earlier before the show about, getting the data locally or getting the data provincially and being able to say, hey, like there's been 25 million check-ins at gyms across Ontario, and here's how many cases of COVID and how many were actually, transmitted from the gym or brought into the gym. And that's the important stuff in the data that I think would help make those decisions. Not just, hey, we're going to close you down because we think you're high risk because there's going to be heavy breathing. And that's it, right? And I had this discussion with someone before, like you can't socially distance people at Costco. Like they don't have someone going, hey, here's your taped box in Costco and you can't leave this box. We have taped boxes in our gyms. And once you're in there, you're not leaving it. And you're washing your hands when you come in, and you're putting your mask on when you're not in your square, and you're sanitizing everything before and after. You're doing a COVID screening test before you come in. Like, sure, on the face of it, we might be higher risk because of what we do, but we mitigate that risk by all the stuff that we've put into it, right? Like, I don't want to bring up, grocery stores and big box stores, but is someone going and wiping down that jar of almond butter you just picked up? No.
Yeah,
right?
you know what? I did this yesterday. I grabbed something at the store and then I was like, I don't want that. I put it back and I'm like,
I've done it with apples, right? At the store. I'm like, that one's got a bruise on it. I'm putting back. And then you're like, oh, should I just take that one because I touched it? And it's, I think what we do in the gyms is do a really good job of minimizing that risk, where it's not a free for all at other places, but they just can't physically do what we do because of the way their businesses run and the model they have. And so I think that, yes, we potentially could be higher risk because of the heavy breathing and whatever else goes on in the gym that increases the risk factor. And they're just looking at that. They're like, okay, well, singing is increasing the transmission risk, and heavy breathing increases the transmission
all these people
risk.
having parties and karaokeing. That's why.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
But for me, like if you even with this, if we do get shut down or if we're talking about this, is like being an ex-cop.
Yeah.
Like my buddy made a joke about it. He's like, oh, if we get shut down in the winter, I'm going to kill my family. Right. Like, like sarcastically, obviously, I hope he was being obvious. But like, there are so many suicides and domestic violences like during the holiday season and during the winter cold months. It's like out of control. And now if we're going to like stuff people into their homes, which is actually where people are getting this, but like from having parties, I think one, like if we're closing, like we're not just talking about gyms, if we're closing all the restaurants and stuff, we're like forcing people to like, people can't be away from people. And that's been proven by like the rise in every gym we talk to has gotten more members after COVID because of like people need people.
Yeah.
People need interaction.
And I think it's just going to increase that so much more. Like it's hard to find energy releases in the winter time, right? Like I'm not a guy who wants to go for a walk in the cold. I hate the cold. I'm like shivering right now sitting here.
Yeah. I try to make my kids go to the park and they're like, it's too cold, Dad.
Yeah. So like now you're going to take away their 1 hour where they actually go and spend out some energy. Like take away the physical part of that. Like then now you're going home and you're just stuck in your dungeon. It's already dark and cold and you've been sitting in this living room with your same people for how many days in a row. It's going to get old, man.
Yeah. And the thing is that there's this kind of like dichotomy with COVID. Like people are, maybe at the beginning and maybe even now, people are kind of going out of their way to be somewhat, be kind to, hey, I'll pick those groceries up for you, or I'll do that for you. I'll take out that for you. But at the other end, like drivers are insane right now. Like, and there's this tension that kind of cuts through everything that people seem to be, some people and are like super on edge. And you're like, if I cut that person off, like, are they going to lose their marbles, or like, am I going to lose my marbles? Like there's this, like, it feels like there's this visceral tension that's always there. It's just like, floating around because of what's going on. Like it's become kind of more normal, but people are a little bit more on edge with all the other stuff that COVID brings, whether it be financial, whether it be health-wise, whatever, maybe they're homeschooling their kids and that's a huge change or whatever it might be. So it's like, there's a little bit of tension there and people need that release and they need that outlet because, where does it come otherwise? And it's there. You can kind of feel it. I had this conversation with one of my members the other day. He's like, it affects everybody differently. Everyone's got different stuff going on in their life, and you can't get inside other people's heads, and you don't want to. But it's like it's there. Everyone's got a little bit extra pressure on them because of the whole thing.
And that's where it comes to like what we talked about earlier, is where gyms are, some people, it's their outlet. That's their social hour. That's all that stuff. And now they're anxious, thinking that their one could potentially be their one great hour of the day is now jeopardized. And then there's so much more than just the physical health side of things, right?
Yeah.
Like you're talking about is just like the mental side is something that, unfortunately, it's something you can't measure.
Yeah.
Right, or you can't track or do things like that, but it's something that needs to be
you can't
at least
step on a
thought
scale,
about
but
and at
it needs
least
to be
brought up
considered.
in a conversation where it's like there is so much more to it than just the risk of 10 people in a room.
Yeah, like you know, some people that come into the gym, they come in and they're swapping out, you know, some bad habit for this new gym habit, right? They're like, I come to the gym now so I don't do this, so I'm not, you know, whatever that bad habit was. And it's like, I'm going to sink my teeth into this and go full bore into this, as opposed to, you know, whatever it is, gambling or whatever it might be. And it's like, you take that away and then, you know, this is maybe a big leap of faith, but maybe they start to backslide a little bit. And this is like,
And yeah, I mean, I'm a guy who's lived that life.
Yeah.
You know, and that there was a fatal just the other day, just around the corner from here. Some officers that come to this gym were there. You know, seeing a dead body and, you know, or a mangled body after a car accident is not an easy thing. No matter how many times you've seen it, it's not normal. It's not what normal people do.
Yeah.
And now at the end of that shift, they come here. What do they do if they go home?
yeah,
You know, they come here, you get around some people, you feel some positive vibes, you release those, you know, release some tension in your body, but you're also being around some people that are like, hey man, how you doing?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so great to see you today. Or like, great workout. And now that person goes home in just completely different mindset. And I can tell you, because I've been that person, you go home after those calls and you start smashing down Jamesons.
Yeah.
Right. Or you came to the gym and like blew off some steam, got around some real good people, surround yourself with positive influence. And now all of a sudden your day is like a little bit better than that, you know, traumatic event.
yeah,
And so we always hear, like, we talk a lot, you talk about like dead bodies a lot, but for me, you know, for let's say Karen, Karen, who's like, you know, her level of stress might have been like that she might have to go get her COVID test, or like her level of stress,
That's
her dead body.
that's her dead-
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So it's all different for all these different people. And that's, I feel, what we're taking away. So
and I think that that's the one thing that people underestimate about gyms is that it's not just about the workout, right? It's like about being in that community of like-minded people that maybe, you know, like I talk to you about, you know, a different way to eat, or, you know, a different way to see things, or we talk about, in our gym, we talk about mindset a lot, and we have like, you know, a daily mindset thing that we talk about. And, you know, some people brush that off and it's just like, oh, I just want to get to the workout. But then some people take that to heart, and it like flips things a little bit. So I always say that like the gym is like an onion. There's so many layers to it, right? There's so many layers to what the gym does for people that it's not just that workout. And it's like, I've always kind of said it's almost like, because I've been in the bar industry for a long time, it's almost like a bar that you go to do healthy stuff, right? But you can hang out and you're around people that you want to be around, and it provides so many things to so many people, and you can't categorize it as just like a gym, right? We're not just
more than just a gym,
more than
baby.
just a gym.
Well, on that note, if you don't hear the passion in John's voice, I'm sure you do. You can see it in his eyes if you're on YouTube. It's I love hearing people talk that really care about what they do and of the people that they serve. So, cheers to that, man, and thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Let's call it there. Cheers to your Perrier.
Thanks, fellas.